This is an NYY Sports Talk podcast, presented to you by Baseballism, a premium lifestyle apparel brand inspired by America's pastime. Baseballism is America's brand.
Now batting for the New York Yankees, the shortstop, number 2.
Welcome back. This is episode 120 of the NYYST podcast, presented to you by Baseballism.com. I am your host, Christian. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Chris.
You.
And Stat Guy Rye.
What up?
I gave you the extra on the and today because
we got the sweet.
I figured, not even that, I figured Ryan needed the little pick-me-up after, your favorite show of all time.
Oh, it ended like a pile
I'm
of
still
dog
depressed.
shit.
Pile of garbage.
Like,
A
I
pile
really,
of garbage.
I wake up and it's like, you know when the Yankees get like eliminated or something, you wake up the next morning, you're like, oh, the Yankees are eliminated. Like, I keep waking up like, oh, that Game of Thrones is ruined.
Yeah, that usually happens for us for like a good couple of weeks until we started doing the pod that we kind of just let it all out, like the therapy
it does
pod.
feel better. Maybe I should start a
Maybe
Game of Thrones.
You should do a Game
Post.
of Thrones pod.
You should,
Well,
bro.
it's
Just
a
talking about
bit
how
late.
shitty that show was.
Why? We did
'Cause
it.
it's
We did it.
over.
All right,
Yeah, but
listen,
we did our
the
Avengers.
Yankees just won 5
Nobody-
straight games.
Yeah,
they
we know-
swept the Orioles.
Okay, nobody cares about that. We
can't talk about GOT, bro.
Yeah, nobody cares about the Yankees.
That's
they're
what
here.
the cool
acronym,
guys
bro.
call it. GOT.
They're
It's
here
an
to
acronym.
talk about.
God.
They're here to hear about Ryan's
Ryan's
Game
emotional
of Thrones. Okay,
roller coaster.
It's like, I got to give it like a 4.5 out of 10.
that
The whole
is
series?
Oh, no, the whole series, I'll give the whole series like a 7.5 out of 10.
That
but
sucks.
that's not
you
good.
can't give it
no,
that. That's bullshit.
No,
You're not
you
holding
can
it
for the
accountable for the shitty
Dude, I
seats
totally
ending.
am, because I would have had it at a 9.5.
I've
right.
never watched one episode, so
I'm
know.
kidding.
Maybe even a
I'm-
7.2.
I'm really kidding. Everybody cares about the Yankees. Nobody cares about Game of Thrones.
Yes,
okay?
my lord.
Who said they were going to win 4? Let's just get that out of the way now.
What Dingleberry thought they were going to split?
Split.
I didn't think they were going to split. The question was, what would you be okay with? And I would have been okay with a split.
Yo, I said sweep.
That was a great
Sweet, sweet.
series.
It's
I
like,
thought they were going to blow it today, bro. I really did.
and you know what it was? What happened
Booney
today?
stepped up today.
I think that the Yankees said to themselves, let's make this a little challenging here. Let's see if, because it's been, first of all, you had the great comeback on Monday. And actually, let's bring this up here. We had a 5-star interview.
It
with,
was seriously.
Yeah.
You said it. You said it off air. Phenomenal interview.
And we had a 5-star interview with our good pal, Joe Rivera, of the Sporting News, which you'll hear in a little bit. To go along with that 5-star interview, drop us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes.
Subscribe to the YouTube
Yes,
page.
do
Leave
that.
us a rating and review there if you want.
Yeah.
Greatly appreciate
Joe's a
it.
constant contributor to the show, but we had a great time talking to him for about an hour today. We always say the first mile marker in baseball is Memorial Day, and we're sitting here recording Thursday evening right before Memorial Day weekend. So we talked a little NL, and some contenders in the AL, but obviously a lot of Yankee talk with Joe. So you'll hear that with
Stat Guy Rye made a boo-boo and this audio is to replace his idiotic comment.
Oh, should say that.
thanks, Ryan.
Just ignore him.
Plug.
It's all right. It's getting edited out. Like I'm gonna put just like a bleeper over it,
Yeah,
or just
bleep
mute
it.
his audio. No one will ever know what he just said.
No one will ever know.
Ever.
What was it?
Forever.
You hate that movie. So
Worst
you-
movie
Yeah,
ever
don't
made.
quote
ever.
me.
You're
Movie
never
you
allowed
hate.
to quote that movie because you hate it.
All right.
Okay?
Come on.
What was I talking about?
You were talking about
The
Joe
Yankees?
Rivera going around the league, talking about the Yankees. We were talking about the Mets a little bit. We
No.
went
Well, I
National
was
League.
specifically on something
Yeah,
when
you
this
were, and then I
when you said what you said.
I did what I did.
You should leave right now.
You
Actually,
You know what?
And you know what's funny? In my head, I wasn't even listening to you. I was just in my head. Want to know what was going through my head? was going, Mike Talkman's going to be one of those guys that we completely forget about because I kept going,
Talkman.
We're not even going to... Mike Talkman's going to be brought up one day, like down the line, and we're going to go, oh my God, remember when he played for this team?
You know when his name's going to come up? In 2020 when they bring up another nobody to wear number 39, and then I go back and look at it again.
39.
And then somebody on Twitter will say, Darryl Strawberry!
Oh my God.
I don't know, man. You were talking about...
Yes. Actually, this is Monday, the big comeback with Jay Happ, who... And I texted you
against the Orioles.
I don't. Can I actually bring this up?
I'll try finding it.
Yeah, Ryan, you try to find it. Stat guy Rye here. I'm the one doing the math over here.
You shut your mouth.
Shut your mouth.
Jay Happ and Ryan can find the exact numbers.
You want me to bring it up?
You have it?
I got it, bro. I'm
I
good at
got
this
it already,
stuff.
dude.
What is it?
You texted it.
And I tweeted it also. What is it? What's the exact numbers?
Give me a minute. You tweeted it.
You tweeted?
Anyway,
Get to your point, and I'll get the stats up.
Who Jay Happ has pitched like you would expect Jay Happ to pitch.
I got it.
Against the rest of Major League Baseball, but he is atrociously bad against the Baltimore Orioles.
Versus Baltimore in 4 starts, 17 and a third innings pitched, 15 earned runs. Versus everyone else, 6 starts, 35 innings pitched, 15 earned runs. The same amount of earned runs,
bro.
2 more starts against everyone else.
And the double amount of innings.
Yeah, double.
So can we say
trouble.
we're not too concerned with Happ? Like, maybe against the Orioles he sucks, but let's see how he does against other teams.
But why?
I don't know what it is, but listen.
Yeah, I don't know.
This kind of brings me to my point. If you don't mind me getting to what I wanted to discuss before the interview.
Just get to your point, okay?
Stop caressing the mic over there, dude.
I'm going to caress.
You come here.
You're naughty. You're naughty, Mike.
Nobody likes when you do that voice.
Everyone loves it.
Honestly,
everyone loves it. Can I tell you something about Christian? When he has an opinion about something, he thinks it's so powerful that he says that no one feels it or everyone feels it. That's how you are. You think you are so powerful. You can't just say, I don't like when you do that voice. You say, nobody likes when you do that voice.
There's 2 people in this room. We don't like it. That means nobody likes it.
Then
okay?
you are a loser because Tommy Boy is one of the greatest movies ever made.
You're not Chris Farley.
But I look like him and I sound like him.
You're
not
Chris
naughty.
Okay, you call the radio station.
So
and this is the nonsense I gotta deal with. Okay,
all right.
Okay.
You keep doing this voice.
Good buddy of mine moved to Texas a long time ago. Fell in love with a girl. Okay?
Is this a song? Good buddy of mine moved to Texas. Fell in love with a girl.
I had to go see about a girl. All right.
Good Will Hunting.
Very good. So he falls in love with this girl. Okay.
Is this a true story?
Yes.
Okay, get to the point.
I'll get to my point when I get to it.
Was it
okay?
Nobody likes your point, okay?
Listen.
Okay, this guy's giving us a romantic comedy now.
Jesus Christ.
It's like a Kate Hudson movie over here.
So not only does he up and leave,
Oh.
right? Not only does he up and leave, he lives down in Houston. Now he's in Houston as a diehard Yankee fan, and he's married a Houston Astros fan. Okay? So now he's had to deal with...
They never existed before 2016.
She's one of them. She's a true one, which makes it even worse. And to his credit, he said to me the other day, he goes, to be fair, when I married her, the Houston Astros were a pile of dog shit in the National League.
Right.
So... You forget that they were in the National League.
So I was like, you know what? That's fair. Because they were just so irrelevant. And now they're the greatest team in baseball.
One year, right? Andy Pettitte.
But he texted me, and he's become a big fan of this show.
Yeah, they lost to the White Sox.
Roger Clemens.
And he texted me, and he said, who would you rather have if the Yankees were going to get anyone, Mad Bum or Dallas Keuchel? And I started talking about it. I said, I want to bring it up. And he said, you kind of touched on it at the end of the episode. And I said, I kind of black out towards the end of the episode, but I think it's something we do need to discuss very quickly. Because there's all this talk that the Yankees are going to make a move. So let's just assume that at some point they're going to. And the 3 guys you can really think of are Max Scherzer, Madison Bumgarner or Dallas Keuchel.
Okay,
And
here's
I
what-
think I think all three of us are going to have a different answer. And I don't just want you to say the name and that's it. I want you to also think about all the components.
All right,
So
here's
now we're
what you
throwing
can-
in Scherzer into this?
Yeah.
All right, here's what you
Yeah.
can do with Dallas Keuchel. There's a garbage can
Yeah,
somewhere.
where's that garbage?
Okay.
Out.
Well, guess
Right.
what? He's my pick, but you tell me your pick.
All right, he just threw him in the garbage.
Madison Bumgarner.
Okay. But
You
Here's-
okay? What?
But here's the thing. Mad Bum would be my pick too. I just think the Giants are going to want way too much for this guy.
And we discussed this with Joe.
I
and
understand
I don't
that.
think that they will want as much as you think they want.
So, given what you think they'll want, who would you say? You're stuck on Estrada. That
I would
you think
I like
you
Estrada,
don't think
but
they're
I
gonna
would
want
trade
Florial?
him.
You don't think they're going
I
to
would
want
trade
Frazier?
No, I'm not trading Clint Frazier. I
What
would
if they
trade-
want him?
Well, tough titty, said the kitty. Okay.
So you think you still get him without him? Realistically, because realistically for me,
and here's
I think it takes it either Frazier or Florial,
by
if not both. You would give away both.
I know I would give away Estevan Florial and Tyler
Florial I'm
Estrada.
fine with, but I think it's going to take Frazier. I really
don't
do.
think so. Because I heard, and it might have been Mike Francesa that brought this up today.
It was me.
The Giants are so far gone from being a contender now. They might not want guys that have major league service time right now.
That's true.
They
Great
might
point.
want prospects that they could build for another year or so, and
That's
then bring them
true,
up.
but you have that in Florial. Why not also ask for a guy who's going to help fill the seats a little bit?
You think Clint Frazier is going to
Yes,
sell tickets?
in San Francisco, I'm not saying he's going to help sell tickets, but he's an exciting player to go see. He is. He's young. He's MLB ready.
Again, we discussed this with Joe. I'm not trading Clint Frazier because I have to look, as much as we want to win in 2019, I got to look to 2020. Who's playing left field for the Yankees in 2020? Clint Frazier.
Cameron
Florial.
Maben.
No.
Cameron Maven. Okay, who's your guy?
Estevan Florial has not even made it out of A-ball yet.
Who's your guy?
It's tough. It's definitely not Keuchel. But if you're going for a rental, then yeah, Bumgarner's the guy. But what are the Nationals going to want for Max Scherzer, who is signed through 2021?
And this is why, and honestly,
Nothing. They're going to want the Yankees to pay his contract.
and that's why I don't want
Okay.
him. I don't want to touch that contract.
No, it's a joke. And he's a guy
For 2 more
who-
years after this year?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
he's
but
got
it's a
deferred
joke.
money.
He's got
It's
a lot on the back
joke
end.
what
Yeah.
he's owed. It's insane.
And they'd want the Yankees.
And you're
That's
not,
all it would
and
be.
you're not going
That's
to
all it
get,
would
you're
be.
not going to get him for bottom rung prospects.
like
They're
him,
going to
though,
want,
man.
they're going to want
Okay.
somebody.
I'm so
decent.
torn because Mad Bum is my guy because he's the playoff guy, and that's all we need this for. That's all we need a pitcher for. I'm sorry. That's all. We need a guy who's going to take us through. But people forget how good Dallas Keuchel was. Even if he wasn't great, at the price you can get Dallas Keuchel, a lefty,
No, yeah.
All right, look. This is Max Scherzer's contract, right?
it's disgusting. It's going to make me want to vomit.
Oh.
All right.
here.
So if the Yankees pick him up, they'll be on the hook for roughly.
70?
Well, right now he's getting paid $30.2 million this year. So the Yankees would have, by the time the trade kicks around, they'll probably, $12-13 million out to pick up this year. 29 next year, 28, just under 28 in 2021. And then that would be fine.
about 70 million.
But that would be fine. If you told me I would have Max Scherzer 3 years, $70 million, even at, how old is he? I just saw this. Even at 34 years old, I would probably do it. But here's why I would not touch him. Ready?
Because of his numbers this year?
No, not even that. He has $105 million deferred from 2022 to 2028.
That's crazy.
So
how did he get
So
that?
it's like a mini Bobby Bonilla.
yeah.
No, it's worse than
It's
Bobby
worse.
Bonilla.
Because it's a lot more money.
Yeah, but
Yeah, but
That's
under
why-
a shorter time span.
yeah, okay. That's why I'm not touching him, because that's $15 million a year you're paying him for 6 years that he's not going to play for
Nah.
you.
Right, that's crazy.
That's why I wouldn't touch him.
Yeah.
Okay.
That
If
just
the
kind of sold
contract
it
was
for me.
dead
then.
and over after 2021, okay, yeah, I'll do it. I would.
Which I thought it was.
So let's take that, we'll crumple it up, throw it in the garbage, and
Garbage.
leave it on fire. So it's really between Mad Bum and Keuchel, and I think you're throwing the Keuchel idea out the window too quickly because of the price tag.
Does it worry you, though, that he hasn't pitched this year yet?
No, because here's my thing. Madison Bumgarner, to me, in the regular season now, is nothing special. Nothing. But when the bright light's on, he is arguably the best.
Do you need him to be anything special?
No, and that's my point. What am I going to give up for this guy for him to not be anything special for me, especially if I'm going to have to sign him to an extension? Because I'm telling you, that's what he wants.
Thairo Estrada and Estevan Florial.
No, that's not what's going to get you Madison Bumgarner, because you're talking contract.
They're
going
to
to
ask for.
You're talking contract, right? You're not.
Christian made a good point, though, that they might want prospects more than anybody with service time.
Let's get off the actual players, though. This guy's going to want a contract, and it's Madison Bumgarner. He's going to look Cashman in the eyes and say, you want me to pitch you to a World Series? You're going to sign me for X amount also with X amount of years. And is that a guy you really want to sign long-term right now?
Well, he is 29, right?
He's only 29.
Maybe 30, Joe said.
Give him 4 years.
I'm sorry.
Give him 4 for 80. I give him 4 for 80 in a heartbeat.
I'll give him a contract, but then I'm not giving up guys like
Doesn't Keuchel's
What does the Giants get out of it? What do the Giants get out of it?
Well, obviously nothing.
If Madison Bumgarner is on the trade market and the Yankees are balking over prospects and he winds up in Houston or Boston, I'm going to burn Brian Cashman's office to the ground, okay?
Wow. What if it's not the guys that you think?
Well,
we're talking prospects.
Prospects, you can take the entire farm system.
Clint Frazier is not a prospect to me.
But I think he's going to be a guy that they want.
He's not a prospect.
No, he's not.
No. If you're telling me...
I said prospects, they could take the entire farm system. Give me Mad Bum.
And if anybody in the FBI does listen to the show, I'm not actually going to
He was
burn.
joking,
I was
Feds.
joking, okay? Because you have to say that nowadays.
Get off our back.
Everyone flips out.
Okay. If it comes down between if Clint Frazier's the sticking point and the Yankees don't get him, I'll live with it. But if you're telling me that he didn't want to trade Estevan Florial, Brian.
I agree with you.
Brian, come on.
But what if he wants some crazy contract that another team is stupid enough to give him?
$30 million a year? Is he going to ask for that?
Maybe.
Then go. Goodbye.
Okay. So that's my point as to why you're throwing the Dallas Keuchel idea out the window way too quickly.
But what is Dallas Keuchel?
He just might make the most sense, and he might be the guy that we need to slot in. What if Luis Severino comes back healthy? You got a guy in Domingo Germán who's been lights out.
Yeah, but
Paxton's coming back.
Honestly, I don't know if we can.
Montgomery.
You're gonna just blow money to get Madison Bumgarner, who we don't even know who he is, and I'm a Mad Bum fan.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay, you're kind of like underselling Dallas Keuchel's value, though. Like, he's gonna want a lot of money.
Not if it's mid-season and he hasn't gotten signed.
What do you think?
If he's just like, if they're like, bro, you want to play? You want to play this year? You want to win a championship? Let's go. It's not going to be a crazy
Am I signing
amount.
him for the rest of the season?
Maybe 2 years.
No,
maybe
I would
the
say
rest of the
it'd have
season
to
in
be
one
2
season.
years. He's going to want 2 years.
I don't want him then.
But why? You're talking about Dallas Keuchel like he's some.
I think
like
he's going to want
bum.
240.
Do you know what Dallas Keuchel did against the New York Yankees?
In 2015.
Who cares?
Chris, no,
he's still been good.
There is validity to that because his velocity has dipped tremendously since then.
I'm sorry.
He was throwing, 97 at one point? Now he's throwing 90.
I just want to make it clear. I want to make it clear.
Okay, make it clear.
Who would I rather have? Or if you're asking me just as far as talent and the player, it is hands down Madison Bumgarner.
Okay.
Hands down. He is the guy that we need.
Down.
But I'm talking everything all included. I think Keuchel might end up making the most sense for this team.
How bad were players last year that just missed spring training? Okay.
Yeah.
This guy has not only missed spring training, but he's going to miss almost the first 4 months of this season.
And then you're going to throw him into the American
League East. And then the
East?
American League East, and then expect him to be a playoff savior for you? No.
Man.
No.
I don't know. I don't know. Shit. I don't know, man. We'll see. It's just something I thought we should be obligated to talk about because it's...
All right, well then let me ask, do you think by the deadline Dallas Keuchel, Max Scherzer, Madison Bumgarner, one of those three will be a New York Yankee.
100%.
Yes.
One of those three specifically. I'm not talking a new pitcher.
100%.
I'm talking those three.
100%.
Oh, man. Imagine Madison Bumgarner here.
It's not going to be Bumgarner.
The Yankees are not in the mood to play games this
I
year.
agree.
Oh, okay. What did he do in 2017? He only pitched to a 2.90 ERA.
And he actually was impressive last year because he
only
started
went
out
14 and 5.
He started out slow last year, Keuchel, and he turned
what
it
did
on.
he do in 15?
What do you have, a 3.3?
He had a couple tough years. 15, 20 and 8 with a 2.48.
That's 4 years ago, though,
2014,
man.
12 and 9.
It's baseball.
Yeah, but
It's
2016
baseball, dude.
was his only
What do we always
real
talk
bad
about?
year.
How the
in
new
2017 he went 14 and 5 with a 2.90. 2018 he was 12 and 11 but with a 3.74.
Don't want Dallas Keuchel. I don't care if it only costs money. I don't want him on the team.
Okay.
Well, he would have to shave that beard, which I wouldn't mind
Okay.
not having to see that thing anymore.
Get me this year.
Maybe
is
they should sign Kimbrel too and make him shave that
And then
weird
DFA
beard,
him.
and then cut off his arm so he can't do that.
sign him just so he has to shave the beard, and then you release him or trade him somewhere.
Mad Bum's doing really well this year.
Chris, he plays for the Giants.
What happened to Justin Verlander in Detroit, and then he wound up in
come on,
Houston?
dude. It's
and
Madison
then-
Bumgarner we're talking
You don't
about.
think coming to the Yankees, a team that has aspirations to win a World Series,
I
is going
hate
to wake
having
him up?
this take. I hate having this take.
So I don't
because
have it.
I want Bumgarner
You know what
more
this
than
is? This
anyone.
is like this is people that are like on Twitter, hot take, and they just say stupid shit to get a reaction out of people.
Here's my hot take.
What's that?
If the one player that makes the most sense for the Yankees when all is said and done is Dallas Keuchel.
It doesn't make the most sense.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
if
your argument,
Dallas
though.
Keuchel is on the team over Madison Bumgarner, you owe me something.
I don't owe you anything.
Yeah, I want to make a bet.
No.
We'll think
How
about
about you have to buy him a Dallas Keuchel, and then he has to buy you a Bumgarner
Bumgarner what?
like jersey.
when one of the two becomes Yankees.
If Dallas Keuchel becomes a Yankee, if that ever did happen, I really hope that they have a good enough sense to never make a jersey for
You
him.
don't think, bro? You don't
They
think
can make a jersey.
Keuchel against the Astros in the playoffs? That dude doesn't have
that would
some
be
type
kind
of
of nice.
some type of like chip on his shoulder.
Give me the playoff warrior, okay?
He is a playoff warrior, but is he? I mean, when's the last time he's pitched in the playoffs?
Don't care. Bring
When's the
him.
last
He's
time?
29
Dude, it
years
doesn't
old.
matter, man.
Is he that young?
He's
Yeah.
29.
Yeah.
Dallas Keuchel is 34 years old,
Okay.
and he doesn't have the stuff that Max Scherzer
I mean,
has.
Bumgarner in the playoffs.
This
is not
open
even
went
close.
way too long.
Yeah.
I
Oh, because you
apologize.
bring up nonsense here. But what
It
is
wasn't nonsense. It was something that
No,
needed
that's
to be
fair.
discussed.
That's fair. Didn't happen.
Everyone's discussing. All the cool kids are talking about it.
Okay, did they pee their pants also?
If peeing your pants is cool, consider me Miles Davis.
I don't know.
Dropping bombs today.
You never watched that movie?
What?
Billy Madison?
Is that what he says, though? I thought he said...
That is the grossest thing I've ever heard in my life.
think
No, it's
because
the old lady says
Everybody
so.
pees their pants.
Pees-
It's the coolest.
And then the old lady
she
says,
goes,
if
if peeing your pants is cool.
consider
Oh,
me
yes.
Miles
I thought
Davis.
you said Adam Sandler
Oh,
said that.
cool. That's the grossest thing.
I believe that Brandon Hyde wanted to pee his pants every time that Gleyber Torres and Gary Sanchez came to
Why
bat.
do
This-
I
they
don't know.
still pitch to these guys?
If if you guys have not sought out or heard Gary Thorne's calls of Gleyber Torres' home runs from,
Oh, God.
from
Here we go.
Wednesday's game, you need to hear this.
They
so good.
are so funny, man.
There's a drive. I don't
I
know.
mean, come on. What do you even
And
say?
Gary Thorne is one of my favorite baseball announcers.
He's good.
He's got a
He's
nice
really
voice.
good.
And when he one
He almost sounds like Sterling a little. Like
my
he has
one of
that
my
tone.
all-time favorite calls is when Don Mattingly hit that home run in the '95.
That was him?
DS. Yeah,
That was
him.
Thorne?
Yeah, one of my favorite calls all time.
Wow.
Deep drive. I don't know. I didn't hear that call.
Hold on to the roof.
I didn't know that.
Oh, cool.
But he honestly, like, I don't watch.
So was he a national broadcaster?
He was at one point, yes.
But now he's
I don't listen. I
Orioles.
don't watch the Oriole games because they suck. They're
Dude,
there
that
But
was so
if there
fun.
if there is
Imagine
a
him to be
reason
their
to watch the
announcer.
Orioles, Gary Thorne is tremendous. But,
He is very
But
good.
the way he was just like, basically, he just like threw his hands up and was like, Jesus Christ again.
He literally was like deep to left, and then he's like, "Oh my god! I mean, what do you even? How do you even call this anymore?"
I mean,
like he
it's
was just
it's
speechless.
crazy. Every time they'd hit a home run, it was Torres, Sanchez. What was that stat you said the other day? The Yankees have more home runs against the Orioles than the Marlins have as a
As a team.
team.
It's crazy.
And they hit
Gary and Glaber have more home runs against the Orioles than most players do. Just
and the Yankees hit another
season.
2 home runs today. Frazier and Luke Voigt went deep today.
Frazier, who we were getting on a little bit last episode,
wasn't really getting on.
No,
I'm
we
just
weren't
saying,
getting
was there
on him,
a
but
little-
we were talking about his slump.
And what did I say? What gets a guy healthy?
Yeah, and I meant to bring it up because that's the exact words that came out of your mouth. It was Baltimore pitching, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, this offense that you were kind of like holding your breath with because they were just getting by and winning just exploded this weekend. I mean, this week.
What a terrible team the Orioles are.
Yeah, but you know what? At the same
doesn't take
time,
away the wins.
It doesn't take away
at all, but
this
they
is the
played some
same team the
sloppy
Yankees
baseball.
couldn't beat last year, and everyone flipped out about. Now we're beating them, and you know what? Evan Roberts made a great point.
Do you know the Yankees are? The Yankees are, if my math is correct, they're 10-2 against Baltimore this season, and they lost 2 games in the first 3 days of the season.
That's
today.
crazy.
And they're 16-4 against American League East opponents so far this year.
So listen, Evan Roberts made a great point today, and you know what? I never thought of it this way, and I love that he said it. How did the Red Sox do what they did last year?
They beat Baltimore.
They did not just beat the bad teams; they destroyed them.
Right.
They destroyed them, and that's what the Yankees are starting to do. This should not make us feel bad. This should not be something like, oh, it's just the Orioles. This is part of what makes greatness. Beating teams like the Orioles the way the Yankees have, having a couple games where the Orioles feel like they're going to win it, and then we just snag it right back and win 4 in a row against them.
It doesn't matter what team you're playing.
Them.
A 4-game series.
Four-game
you sweep in a 4-game
The
series.
Yankees have a
is very
9-game
impressive.
winning streak against the Baltimore Orioles. Right now.
And look, me saying that the Yankees were going to win 4 last episode, in the back of my mind, I didn't really believe it. Did I? It's 4 games. That's tough.
They tried to lose a couple.
They
of them.
tried. But you know what? They did it. And we got to be happy about that, man. This team is rolling right now. Absolutely rolling.
You know what we need to roll right now?
Joey Riv. That's what I call him. Joe Riv.
Joe
Riv.
Please, yes, go to Twitter, follow Joe Rivera on Twitter at Joe Rivera SN, and let's cut to the interview right now.
This interview is brought to you by baseballism.com. Check out baseballism.com. We have a new promo when you get there. Use promo code CHASE28. Not going to save you 15%. We're going to save you a little more money on giving you free shipping on your entire order. Doesn't matter how much you spend. You get free shipping on the order. Use CHASE28 as your promo code. And this interview is brought to you by baseballism.com. Is there something you want to say?
As a big online shopper,
Okay.
let me tell you this, right?
I love online shopping.
I would rather take free shipping over 99%
100%.
off because you're like, wow, I can get $1,000 off, but I got to pay $29.99 for shipping.
Yeah.
The shipping pisses you off.
It does.
It does.
'Cause it's always at the end.
And you know
too.
what?
It's
You
always
don't
at
know
the
it.
end too. They sneak that in there.
Not to
about to
name
check out.
drop, like Joe Rivera does in this interview
Oh
45 times.
my God!
But
We got it.
I was
You and I
talking with the
check it.
CEO of Baseballism, and we were like, let's change it up a little bit. Let's go with free shipping. People love free shipping. I said, you know what? You're right. So this interview is brought to you by baseballism.com. Use CHASE28 when you get there to get free shipping on your entire order. And we'll be back at this.
Within a game, a bond is made. He teaches his boy a game he played. 2 gloves, 1 ball, a day at the park, and the 2 play catch until it gets dark. And his boy does better than he thought he would, so the 2 played catch as long as they could. The boy and his friends, they play in the streets, tennis shoes and cans, no bases, no cleats. They hit home runs and they turn double plays. 1 great catch, and he's Willie Mays. But the sun starts to set in the old neighborhood, and they played in the streets as long as they could. The boy goes to school and plays for his team. He develops his craft and follows his dream. He has moments of glory, he has moments of shame, but they shape his life and they make his name. But he begins to get old, and it's understood. The boy played the game as long as he could. The boy, now a man, he has a son of his own, and he teaches his son a game he was shown. His son's first game, he sits in the stands. He yells out instruction, but it's not in his hands. And being late for the meeting was not in the plans, but a cheer for his son as long as he can. This is America's brand. This is baseballism. Do you believe in baseball?
Chris and Christian of the NYYST podcast here with our good pal Joe Rivera of the Sporting News here on episode 120. You can follow Joe on Twitter at Joe Rivera SN, where he threatens to not come on this show because I make bad puns, apparently.
He thought you were serious, by the way. This is how sensitive Christian is. He comes off as this like big macho guy, but he was all like upset. He thought you were actually serious.
You know, I couldn't be serious when it comes to the puns. You know, I'm one of those guys that I'll make my fair share, but then I also get stupidly offended when people have bad ones. So
that's the best part of puns.
I can't. Yeah, I can't really get too mad. You know, I mean, I'm disgusted, but on the inside, I'm actually laughing my ass off. So, yeah, no real hatred for me on the pun game.
So
none at all.
How you been? It's been a while. Have you cheated on us? Have you done any other podcasts? Since
actually,
last coming on with us?
You know, it's funny you mentioned that. I had a podcast that I was on last week, and they actually invited me to their house, to their recording studio to have me on.
It sounds like you're kind of making this up a little bit. No.
It was a barrel of laughs. It was the Diamond Digest guys. I mean, I don't want to drop a plug for another podcast on the show, but you know, it was Dennis Ackerman and Ryan Kiz on the Diamond Digest Pop Flies and Grounders podcast. They invited me over. It was about an hour. We should, talk all things baseball like I do with you guys. But yeah, it was great being in studio, putting some names to faces, some faces to names. So
and
it's an idea.
And listen, you could put faces to names with us by going on YouTube and checking us out. However, we've loosely discussed this, and behind the scenes, I've actually been working on this very, very minimally because it really has to come to fruition the right way. But we discussed doing a 24-hour live show, 24 hours, live guests in and out each hour. And of course, if this does come to fruition, and it's all to raise money for a good cause. We don't know that good cause just yet. But if that does come to fruition, we, of course, would love to have you in studio as one of our guests.
Absolutely, guy. Listen, if it's for charity, as long as it's going to charity and not, Christian's wallet to
you never know,
support the WWE network. I think that's I'm on board for that. Yeah, you just keep me in the loop. I'd be more than happy to come on.
I don't even know who pays for my subscription. I haven't seen a bill in months.
Joe, can I tell you something? I go to this guy's house. He has a different subscription to something else every time I go over. He pays for DAZN. You ever watch DAZN, like boxing?
Oh,
am I saying?
Are you kidding me? I'm on DAZN.
Oh yeah,
man.
Duh. Listen, he pays for this. How many times a year do you watch boxing?
Twice.
Oh man,
twice a year, and he pays for this.
It's worth it though, because when you really think about it, I don't want to be a corporate shill here, but when you consider a lot of these pay-per-view events for boxing are in the $60 to $70 range. I mean, you're paying, even if you watch 3 fights a year that are big fights, that's almost $200 that you're shelling out. But you pay for DAZN, it's $20 a month, but you get tons of fights every month, and then you get to see me on Change Up every now and then too, which is a great fun baseball show that they're doing. So. Yeah, I'd say that DAZN is worth it. Maybe the WWE network not as much anymore, but DAZN, if you want to show out the cash and support your buddy, I think that.
Too bad we're not being paid by all these places. We're really good at naturally promoting different companies. What's up, Stat Guy Rye? Stat Guy Rye's here. He's what is it? Fashionably late. Casually late, fashionably late.
Fashionably late.
Not with those PAL basketball shorts he's wearing. He's not fashionable.
I kind of like basketball today.
All right, so let's get down to business here. The first mile marker of the baseball season is Memorial Day. We're sitting here, we're recording on Thursday night, right before Memorial Day weekend officially kicks off on, I guess, Friday. The weekend starts, right? Most people will have a long weekend
As
here.
My grandmother would say, Friday.
Okay, thank you for interjecting that useless information.
I like useless information.
So we're bringing in Joe here because Joe does all things baseball. He's not just Yankee centric. So we like bringing in Joe to kind of go around the league a little bit. And we'll start in the National League, since we don't really talk a lot of National League baseball here because it doesn't really pertain to us, and the Yankees haven't been in the World Series in 10 long years. So, looking towards what's happening in the National League doesn't really mean a lot as we break down the Yankees. But, there were some rumblings in Queens here, the other team in town. They got swept by the Miami Marlins over the weekend. They have rebounded nicely. They did take 4 in a row from the Washington Nationals. Before we actually get into the Mets, Joe, how are the Nationals this bad? Even without Bryce Harper, they went out there, they got themselves Patrick Corbin. How did they have the same number of losses as the Marlins right now?
It's such a good question, and I think this is something that everybody's been trying to figure out, right? Because I was very high on the Nationals even before the season. I mean, I was a little skeptical of Patrick Corbin because for me, I know he had a really good year last season, but you're projecting him to have that kind of season moving forward for the next 6 years, and I just don't think you can do that when you look at his track record. Well, Corbin's been very good for them. I think the Nationals are like 3-7 in games started by Max Scherzer, which just can't happen.
No.
Offensively, they've been a little bit inconsistent, even with Soto. Robles, I was very high on. Victor Robles, who was another one of their top prospects. He got off to a really good start. He fell off. Trey Turner had another injury he just got back from. But the bullpen outside of Sean Doolittle is the worst in Major League Baseball, and it's the worst by a country mile. It is not close how bad these guys are. So when you have a bad bullpen in today's game, guys, it just doesn't equate to wins. I mean, you look around the league, I understand the bullpens have been underperforming here and there, but when you have a bullpen ERA over 6 and your fielding independent pitching number is around there too, that's really bad.
That's
you can't win like that.
Yeah.
Do they have Howie
Kendrick? It really is horrendous.
Howie Kendrick's playing second base for them right now.
Yeah, I mean, and all things considered, Howie came through for them a little bit last year, but yeah.
He's in 293 though.
Yeah, he might be 102 now. Yeah, he might be 102 now. But I mean, I look at that team and I still see talent. Like Anthony Rendon has played to an MVP caliber season. Trey Turner's a fire starter for them. You have Juan Soto who hits baseballs to the moon. So they do have the horses in place to do it. It just doesn't look like they're finishing the race when that comes to the bullpen. And that's something that Mike Rizzo did a really, really bad job with this offseason.
Well, speaking of people finishing the race, will Mickey Callaway finish the race that is the 2019 season as the New York Mets manager? It didn't look good for him after the sweep in Miami. Brody kind of gave him a little vote of confidence, but usually that is just, they're leaving him hanging by a thread there, saying that, I believe the words Brody used was a foreseeable future. They have rebounded nicely, as we said. They swept the Nationals, but the Nationals have their own problems. They're playing the Tigers next, so the Tigers are another atrocious team. So the Mets could get on a little bit of a roll here, but do you see Mickey finishing the season as the Mets manager?
To keep it in with the race theme, I do think that the Mets have the horses to do it, right? I do. I look at this team again and I see talent. I know Brandon Nimmo's out right now with a neck injury, and Michael Conforto was dealing with concussion problems right now, but I think Callaway is safe for the year, and here's why. I think the second that you get rid of Callaway, that kind of takes away the human meat shield from Brody Van Wagenen. And when you look at this team up and down right now, Keon Broxton is no longer on the team. He was traded. He was a Brody acquisition. Robinson Cano hadn't been playing well. He was a Brody acquisition. Edwin Diaz, they don't want to use him for more than 3 outs, and he's been up and down early on this season. He hasn't been all-world closer like he was last year. He was a Brody acquisition. Jed Lowry hasn't seen the field yet. He was a Brody acquisition.
Jay Root's familiar. I mean, how awful has he been?
Yeah, exactly. He's been terrible too, and they keep going to him in the 8th inning because it's one of those situations where you paid him, so you have to keep playing him until he gets it right kind of situation. So, yeah, he was a Brody guy. I know he was there before, but he was another Brody signing. So I think that if you get rid of Callaway, it's going to give Mets fans their pound of flesh. And listen, Callaway hasn't done himself many favors as Mets manager. Let's not get it twisted. He hasn't been great, but at the same time, the guys that Brody brought in that they needed to perform, aside from Pete Alonso, which was it was a gutsy move to bring him up at the beginning of the year because you don't know what you're getting with him, and he's been fantastic. But when you look at the guys that haven't really been performing, it's all Brody's guys. It's not on Callaway to a certain extent. So, yeah, I think Mickey actually does finish the year unless they go on a stretch where they just go 5-15 or 5-20, and then I won't think he's as safe then. But the guys in that clubhouse, they love him. They really do. I was actually at Citi Field this week, and you can tell that these guys all love Mickey Callaway, from Pete Alonso on down, from DeGrom on down. They love him. So, yeah, I think Callaway finishes out the season. It's going to have to get really, really bad for the Mets for him to lose his job.
Joe, you made a really, really good point saying that pretty much Mickey Callaway is the human shield to Brodie Van Wagenen, and I don't want to give the three of us too much credit because we don't really deserve it. It's just bro, right? Sorry. Bro. We don't really deserve it, but I guess it's because we are looking at this from a different perspective. We're not really emotionally attached to this situation. Last week, we talked about the fact that this really falls on Bro. I mean, the guys he brought here aren't performing. And part of us said, Mickey's got to be better as a manager to get more out of these guys because they are talented guys. How do you feel about Brodie Van Wagenen as a GM thus far? Can he do anything like, say, maybe acquire Doolittle this year to change your mind on anything he's done thus far? I've been on record. I've written a few times. I think Brodie had a really good offseason. I really do, because I think he brought in guys that, Jed Lowry, understand, again, he hasn't played. So that's a black eye. That's a black mark on his resume right now. But at the time, bringing in Jed Lowry was really smart because it's another depth guy, which is something that they really hadn't had for a few years, was depth on the bench. He brings in Edwin Diaz in that monster trade, along with Cano, who's a professional hitter. And you expect Cano not to fall off as quick as he did. He was hitting under 200 versus lefties. I know that. The hustle stuff I think is a little overplayed, to be honest with you. And he blew out his squad hustling to first now. So
you can't make that up. The guy gets benched essentially for not hustling. Then he busted down the line, and now did they put him on the IL? Do we know I don't know if he did.
Yeah, it's a quad injury.
He hurt himself hustling probably.
Yeah, and then again, that should teach everybody a lesson about fake hustle. I mean, I understand that it doesn't always look pretty, but I do think professional ball players 95% of the time, even want to go 99% of the time, they know when to hustle. They know when they can break it down a little bit. And that's why I don't get up in arms about Cano not hustling all the time.
Well, Joe Girardi used to say when he managed, was a Yankee. Yeah, Joe Girardi used to say when he managed him, when they would say, oh, Cano didn't run out that ground ball, he goes, I don't care, he plays 160 games a year.
Exactly. And then Cano has always been a pretty durable guy, right? So, yeah, I mean, just bringing it back to Brodie, I do think that he did have a very good offseason. I don't really think they have the trade capital right now to go out and make an impact move at the deadline or before. I just don't see that. Jared Kelenic was their number one guy who they traded for Diaz and Cano in that deal. So I'm not really sure where they're going to get the rest of that from. I mean, maybe you trade in Ahmed Rosario if he doesn't turn it around. I don't really know. Ahmed Rosario is horrific defensively when you look at his advanced stats, and he hasn't really gotten better with the bat either. So you're kind of wondering when he's going to turn it around. I know prospects need time, but yeah, I when you look at the moves that he made on paper, it's okay. Like he did a very good job. But when you look at the way these guys have underperformed from top to bottom, I mean, you can't really. It's just bizarre how that happened. It really is. You can't really predict that these guys are going to not play to the back of their baseball card, especially when the only one that was kind of a question mark was Cano with his age, but everybody else you felt pretty comfortable about. So, yeah, I mean, it really is confusing. It's confusing times in Queens.
Well, the Mets, I would say, are probably not a favorite to come out of the National League, make it to the World Series. I know it's still early, but like we said, the first mile marker in the baseball season is Memorial Day. Just looking at the standings, you got the Phillies, the Cubbies, and the Dodgers leading their respective divisions. If you had to place a bet on who makes it out of the National League or right now going to the World Series, who would you say would be that team?
Oh, man, it's such a good question because, and I said this before, but I think baseball's really drunk this season, and it's like passed out on your couch, waking up the next morning with a plunger on your head drunk. I mean, it's
Does
weird.
that happen to you? It
sounds like you're
strangely
familiar
specific.
with it.
Yeah, really.
Oddly familiar, right? Plunger on your forehead, some drawings. I'm not sure
Sharpie
I can say on
drawings on
your
your face,
podcast.
yeah.
You can't really say, but I think that the Cubs. This is what the Cubs are. It took them a little bit to get going, but I just love their talent, man. I love their talent top to bottom. Chris Bryant turned it around, and there was really no hesitation when the team really got going when Bryant got going. So you look at Javi Baez, he's had a really good season to this point. He's played again to an MVP type level. But there's a guy named Bellinger out with the Dodgers who's kind of silenced everybody else when it comes to the MVP talk. So yeah, I do like the Cubs. It's going to depend a lot on the Cubs if they can keep the starting pitching going. I think that's the biggest question mark with them. Between the starting pitching and their bullpen, Darvish absolutely needs to give them more. I think that, they signed him to that mega deal and he hasn't really lived up to it. So Darvish is going to have to give them more. John Lester's been really good for them. Kyle Hendricks has been really good for them. So I do like the Cubs, and I do think there's something to being battle hardened in the tough division, which the NL Central is, because you have three good to really good teams between the Brewers, the Cardinals, and the Cubs there at the top. And the Pirates have been a little sneaky too, and the Reds, who I expected so much more from them so far to this point in the season.
So
haven't really been great.
Since you brought up the Pirates, how has their general manager not been fired for the Chris Archer trade?
It's funny. I got to be honest, guys. I like to trade then, and my reasoning is when you have a guy like Chris Archer, and then you also have Jameson Taillon, who obviously got hurt this year. That's two pieces at the top of your rotation who are cost controlled. And if you're going to win in baseball in 2019, you do need pitching. So they've pitched very, very well to this point in the season. So yeah, I mean, it looks really bad right now. And I totally understand why. But at the same time, they weren't getting anything from Tyler Glasnow. They couldn't figure him out. He was walking the world
this is true
when he was
also.
with the Pirates.
That's
Austin Meadows didn't really have a spot with them either. And I know that right now that looks like a mistake. But yeah, I think I know hindsight is 2020, and especially when you see what both guys were doing this year. But I did like the Archer trade at the time for them. I was expecting them to really figure him out. But obviously, when Austin Meadows is playing like an MVP and Tyler Glasnow was pitching like a Cy Young before the injury. That's tough, man.
Honestly, wouldn't care, but these two guys are going to torture the Yankees for the next 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, Joe. I mean, their level of talent from what we've seen so far, it's not just like they were decent and decided this is natural talent. These guys are really good.
Yeah.
Meadows is good.
Yeah, absolutely. And Meadows is a guy. Let's not forget Meadows was he was a top 5 prospect in baseball before he came up. So it's not like he was a guy that was just a spare part on a team that didn't really have a spot for him. It was a guy that was highly regarded, that just didn't get playing time with the Pirates for whatever reason. I know they had a pretty loaded outfield, but if you can't find a spot for Austin Meadows in that outfield, especially seeing what he's doing now, that's tough to see, man. That really is tough to try and explain to people. But yeah, I like Meadows a lot. And Glasnow, obviously, before he got hurt with the forearm strain, I mean, he was otherworldly too. He was a sub 1.5 ERA. He was pitching like a 1.4 ERA, and he really got the walks down. He was really figuring it out on the mound. So yeah, I mean, that's a tough trade when you're looking back on it. But those two guys are really going to torture AL East opponents for the next few years if they can stay healthy.
Speaking of AL East, let's start talking about a league that everyone cares about now, in the American League. I got to ask you this because you're the guy that could answer this for me probably the best. Which team is scarier? The 2017 Houston Astros, who had a great offense but absolute dominant pitching, or the 2019 Houston Astros, who have great pitching somehow, and just a dominating offense? Because I feel like that's what they've turned into this year.
Where did you say that was differently? You said the same.
Because in 2017 they were a dominant pitching team led
dominant
by pitching
versus great
with a great offense. Okay. Now they have great pitching, but their offense is really what they're leaning on more than anything else. Because back in 2017, you had guys like Verlander, Who else? Name them off. Where they were just pitching to these ridiculous ERAs, and the offense was there and the offense was good, but really when it came down to it, they were a pitching heavy team, and now they're a team that the pitching is doing really well, but the offense is what you hear about every single time they're winning a game at this point.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that, Chris, because you look at both teams and people forget they didn't have Verlander that entire year, right? They didn't pick up Verlander until late in the season at the waiver deadline, so he wasn't even around.
59.
Yeah.
Yep. They didn't have Garrett Cole in 2017, and Garrett Cole, after a few laborious starts early in the season, he looks like he's kind of turned it around his last month or so. So they have the horses now in that rotation to kind of offset losing Keuchel and losing McCullers for a year. But you look at the offense in 2017, they were historic. They had, I looked up a stat. I want to say at one point in the season, they had 7 everyday players who were hitting to an OPS plus of 120 or better, which is, for the uninitiated in the stats world, that is excellent. That's incredible. And that's only happened a few other times in baseball history, and one of them were the Murderers Row Yankee team. So they had an offense then that was excellent.
Wait, Babe Ruth did analytics? I didn't know that.
Oh,
Joe,
well, you know now.
It's so funny you're bringing that up, because in my mind, I guess it's because the Astros, you didn't even think about them in 2017 until Verlander decided to come over and be the Verlander of his prime. And really, when they were in the biggest spotlight, you just saw pitching from them at that point really carry them. So in my mind, they didn't have that dominant of an offense in 2017, but I guess I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, they did. They were really good. They were really good top to bottom. And the scary part about it is they're even better this year when you look at the performances that they're getting from guys. This is why the Astros, to me, now they have a bullpen that's ended by Roberto Osuna, who's been pretty good for them. I mean, listen, you can debate anything you want with should he actually be pitching, all that stuff, if he should have been suspended for longer by Major League Baseball. On pure performance, this guy's really good.
The Yankees never hit him either.
A lot of people to
never.
say. Yeah, and they have a bullpen to go with the starting pitching now that they have to go with the offense. They are just, I don't know if there's a such thing as a perfect team, guys. I don't think there is, but the Astros are as close to perfect as it gets when you have Bregman hitting the way he is, and you have Carlos Correa actually looking more like 2017 Carlos Correa, not injured 2018 Carlos Correa. So,
Alex Bregman is probably the best player nobody ever talks about.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He's really good defensively, and the funny thing is, a lot of people last year, a lot of Astros fans last year, because I'm pretty in tune with what Astros fans think on Twitter. And a lot of these guys actually wanted Carlos Correa traded because they didn't think that he was a shortstop of the future. They saw the injuries pile up and they were kind of skeptical, and they wanted to move Bregman back into that shortstop hole. And that kind of solves the problem in the future of, well, who are you going to pay? Obviously Bregman got his deal, and now he's looking every dollar of it. But yeah, guys, I mean, Houston is just, they're so good. I really don't think there's anybody that comes close right now to how good these guys are. I mean, that offense is so good. I know Springer's dealing with some back issues, but we knew this when they all came up, that they had a core that was going to be here for a long time, and they were going to torture a lot of teams for a long time. And that's exactly what they're going to be doing with no end in sight.
I know exactly.
Wait, before you get into that, Joe, as an aside here, the success that Houston's had, right? The World Series, they went back to the ALCS last year. They're probably the best team in Major League Baseball right now. Probably the favorite,
even though they have the same amount of losses as the Yankees.
But still, I agree with Joe in the sense that they're probably a more complete team, especially with the injuries that the Yankees are dealing with right now. Is this going to encourage teams to tank? Right?
I don't.
How bad were the Astros for so long, and they were able to build this up a lot through their farm system by being really bad for a long time.
Before you answer this, I got to just say this. How many teams were so bad just as long as the Astros, who still, tried to build what this team has built and couldn't even come close?
Yes, it takes smart people to do it.
Smart and educated moves still.
It does lead... It does lead to people saying, hey, you know what? They tanked. They got Altuve. They tanked. They got Bregman. They tanked.
That's definitely true.
They got Correa.
And listen, it's not easy to do. I was working all day today. It's funny you bring this up because I was working on the 2009 MLB draft, I was taking a look back at that first round, and when you look at the amount of talent outside in that draft that either did not make the major leagues or played 20 games in the major leagues and never made anything of themselves just in the first round, outside of Mike Trout, Steven Strasburg, Randall Grichuk that went in the first round that year. It's hard, man. It is hard to draft. It's lottery tickets. You're playing the lotto for 40 rounds. You just don't know how you can develop as well as you want. It takes a lot of developing still. It takes a lot of good scouting. It takes the right personality. It takes all of this stuff. If you're going to tank, which is totally possible in baseball, as you guys mentioned. I mean, the Astros lost 100 games like 3 or 4 seasons in a row. You better be sure that you have the right people in place to find those players. So when you get an Alex Bregman, when you get a Correa, when you get a Springer, these are all guys that you know you're going to hit on, and it's worked out for them. It worked out very well. Now, you could also tank like the San Diego Padres, and you have nothing to show for it for a really long time. You spend money every now and then to try and bring guys to trade for other teams' prospects, which is actually what they did, how they got this rebuild for the most part. Or you can tank like the White Sox did, and now they had the pieces they could trade off to bring in a lot of their top guys. But when you tank in baseball, you better make sure that you get it right, man. You better make sure you get those picks right, because that 5-year window of tanking could turn into a 10-year window, could turn into a 15-year window where you're just not winning. So I don't think it's going to encourage teams necessarily. I think that that's something that's always going to be in front office's mind. But when that happens, if you decide to go that route, if you just want to tear it down from the ground up, you got to make sure you have the right pieces in place. You have the right guys, the right brains in that front office to make it work. Otherwise, you'll just be stuck in just constant rebuild hell, and that's not any place that any team wants to be.
Well, Joe, the reason why I brought the Astros up was because I just look at them and they scare me, and I do say every time I look, and they're probably the best team in baseball right now, regardless of the fact that they only have one more win than the Yankees, same amount of losses, but regardless, I think they're the more complete team. But I'm a firm believer in the champion is the champion until they are taken off their throne. And the Boston Red Sox right now are the reigning champions. However, we kind of just, like last year, the entire season, you knew who the Red Sox were. They were a team you never wanted to face. They were a team that wasn't going to lose. They were a team that could be down 10 runs in the 9th with 2 outs and somehow find a way to win. And they won the World Series doing it the entire year, but we just don't know who they are this year. Are they going to be decent? Are they going to make a playoff run? Where do you see the Red Sox slotting in? Can they make another run at a championship, or is it a championship hangover this year?
I said it from day one. I just don't see, the Red Sox won 108 games last year. That's not normal, right? And I said that on this podcast before. That just doesn't happen. Teams don't win 108 games and then they go through the playoffs and win a World Series in the way that they did. That just, it doesn't happen in baseball. So I never thought that the Red Sox were going to be as good as they were last year. Just too many things broke right for them last year. And I think that they're a Chris Sale injury away from going on another stretch where they're just 500. And you've seen this year that, Mookie kind of slumped in the beginning of the year. He started hitting, they got better. Michael Chavis came up. He was one of their top prospects, and he's been hitting for the most part. So I don't think the Red Sox are still as good. I know you look at their last 2 weeks, their bullpen has been surprisingly good. I know they're pitching to an ERA around 3.5. The starting rotation got better the minute that Chris Sale got better. He's their guy. I don't think that they're actually as good as they were last year. They're still going to be good. They're still going to be a tough team to beat, but I just don't see everything breaking right for them. And I think I've mentioned this on your podcast before. When you have Brandon Phillips, who hasn't played in a major league game in all of 2018, he comes up in September and he hits a game-winning home run for you. That means the baseball gods are smiling on you, man. I mean, everything is breaking right for you. So, yeah, I just don't see where they get that magic from in 2019 that they got last year. It's hard for me to project. I think what they are now, they're going to be a very good team, a 90 to 95 win team, probably around there. They're going to be in the AL East race all year long, but I don't think that they're going to be challenging for another World Series. I just don't see how the bullpen holds together.
Joe, real quick, and I just want a quick answer out of you here because we don't want to take too much of your time, but who's a better team right now as you see it, Rays or Red Sox?
Right now,
if you had to say
right now,
who's the better team, Rays or Red Sox?
Health or no health?
As they currently stand right now with how they've been playing.
Right.
Let's take analytics, right? We'll throw that in a little bit, but let's take our gut and our eyes and what we've seen. Who's the better team, Rays or Red Sox?
Right now, it's the Red Sox, just because they got hot, and I think that they got hot, and I think that while the Rays are good, I just never expected the Rays to be as good as they have been this early.
So you think they'll come back
the Red
down
Sox
to earth?
Are still the better team.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they
That's
will
why
a
I
little
asked.
bit. I just don't see how they're going to be this good. And listen, there's no mistake. I love the Rays offseason this year. I thought bringing in Charlie Morton was huge for them, and he's been very good. And Tyler Glasnow has been a revelation. And they didn't have to make a lot of moves because they still had Tommy Pham, and they had a full year of Pham and Austin Meadows. So, I just don't. But right now, as we stand, I mean, with the way the Red Sox are playing, with the way they've been pitching, I just think they're the better team.
Well, right now, the best team in the American League East is the New York Yankees, and as we've said a bunch of times on this show, it's almost mind-boggling, even though they've been playing AAA teams like the Baltimore Orioles, which is a whole nother story for a whole nother day, how atrociously bad they are. But with all the injuries the Yankees have suffered, that somehow, some way, this team is in first place. One of those guys that is injured right now, who we thought we were getting back, and he's injured again. He seems to have caught bronchitis from Jacoby Ellsbury, is Giancarlo Stanton, who the bicep, then it was the shoulder, and now it's a calf.
You're just going through all the different muscles that you could possibly pull before making an impact on a team.
You listen to sports talk radio, you're on social media. Fans love the way that this Yankee team is playing. They're hitting a bunch of home runs, but they're not solely relying on the home run like maybe they were last season. You get some ridiculous knuckleheads out there that would actually like to see Cameron Maybin stay on this team over Giancarlo Stanton. Now, whatever issues they have aside, because I can't imagine somebody with any dearth of baseball knowledge actually thinks Cameron Maybin is a better baseball player than Giancarlo Stanton is. But
those guys are out there.
Yeah, they are.
Joe, they're out there, and there's a lot of them.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
I've spoken.
There's a lot of them, Joe.
I've spoken to him. Let me ask you this. Giancarlo Stanton, we know who he is. He's a guy that strikes out a ton, but he's also a guy with prodigious power. If you could push a button and keep Giancarlo Stanton on the IL for the entire year or bring him back to New York Yankees, what would you do and why would you do it?
Are we really going to have this discussion?
You know what, Joe? It's really sad, but we have
to. We have to.
Are
the Yankees a better team with Giancarlo Stanton sitting around playing catch in Tampa or taking 4 at-bats every day? I want you to, because you're the guy, Joe. I want you to say it.
Listen, I would rather have Giancarlo Stanton cooking dinner for the Yankees in the clubhouse over having Cameron Maybin on the team. If that means, and it's no disrespect to Cameron Maybin, who's a nice player, but there's a reason
been doing really well for the Yankees.
Teams. Yeah, but listen, if you're telling me that the thing is, everybody wants to look at the strikeouts and they want to look at all that stuff, but the truth is, teams plan for a guy like Giancarlo Stanton. Teams that I know that a lot of pitchers are confident, but there are pitchers that lose sleep at night having to fear Giancarlo Stanton in the lineup. There are guys that want to pitch around Giancarlo Stanton in a lineup. When you have Cameron Maybin in there, nobody's pitching around Cameron Maybin. I'm sorry. It's a statement of fact. No disrespect to Cameron Maybin, who's a good dude. I've spoken with him. I've been in the Yankee clubhouse, so I know, but listen, if you're telling me Giancarlo Stanton or Cameron Maybin, it's ridiculous that we're even having this conversation. I mean, the guy's an MVP winner. He's got 45 to 50 plus home run power. He's an above average defender. He's a decent baser. He brings all this to the team. Cameron Maybin is a solid role player on a team that's scrapping for a wild card spot. But when you're talking about if I would rather have right now at this moment Stanton and all of his strikeouts, all of his faults as a player, or Cameron Maybin, I mean, come on, guys.
Joe, I'm gonna admit something that I'm a little embarrassed about. Okay, I tried calling Mike Francesa today about 4 million times in a row, and
Christian,
I couldn't get through. All right, because they were talking about this, and they were talking about. I can't tell you how many callers called in and were like, Cameron Maybin needs to play, Stanton needs to stay injured, whatever. And I just wanted to get through and say, Mike, listen, because he was saying what you were saying. I can't believe we're even having this conversation. I just want to say, Mike, here's the issue with so many Yankee fans. And I'm okay with it because at least it shows me a little passion from the fans. But Yankee fans, I use the word isolation a lot when it comes to emotions and everything. They don't know how to isolate certain situations where they can't look at this team and what they've done and say, you know what? It's been so great having guys like Cameron Maybin come over and step up, and Gio Urshela play outside of the guy he could ever potentially be and be some superstar. It's so great that Cameron Maybin has come here and brought energy to this team and been good. Instead, it becomes this whole big thing now where Cameron Maybin is the greatest player in the entire world. Giancarlo Stanton, the former MVP with almost 60 home runs, is a pile of dog crap. And it's got to be this whole thing now. You know, Cameron Maybin doesn't strike out. He gets on base and Stanton sucks. It can never just be a nice, like, isolated, wow, Cameron Maybin's been really good as a fill-in player here, but I can't wait for Giancarlo Stanton to come back. It can never just be that.
Yeah, and I think that it's, again, when you look at Cameron Maybin's stats throughout his career, I mean, there's a reason he's bounced around a lot and he hasn't stuck anywhere. But, again, it's ridiculous to even have this conversation. I mean, again, Giancarlo, for all his faults, he's still probably a top 20 player in baseball, right? I don't think anybody debates that. Even if he's at the back end of that 20, he's still really, really good. So, I think that the nerve with a lot of fans right now, and it's nerves. You say to yourself, well, Giancarlo comes back and maybe you'll mess with the chemistry or the juju. Maybe there's a little superstition there. And then there's some knuckleheads there that believe that Cameron Maybin actually should be playing over Giancarlo Stanton, which is ridiculous. But, if you were to have a conversation, Cameron Maybin or Clint Frazier, maybe that would be a little bit more realistic. But Cameron Maybin or Stan, I don't even know why we spend time on it. It's just silly. It's just silly.
All right, so let's move on to something else, Joe. You think the questions we're asking here are silly? Let's see if you think this. Let's see if you think this.
Here we go. Christian's very sensitive when it comes to you.
So let's see if you think. Let's see if you think this one is silly here. The Yankees are dealing with injuries, as we said, and they're dealing with injuries in their starting rotation. God only knows if we're going to see Luis Severino this year. James Paxton's on the IL. You hear he may come back this weekend, but who the hell knows, because that's just the type of year it's been for the Yankees. CeCe's on the IL, but this is one of his scheduled vacations. We all knew this was coming.
Right. We knew it was coming.
when they signed him.
He's got to use the vacation time before his.
I'm
going to use it all up front.
He's done with the team.
Tanaka's become a magnet for comebackers. He's got hit his last two. He's got hit by batted balls his last two starts.
Really?
He got hit
Both
again.
Starts?
He got hit again today.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Domingo Germán is as great as he's been, and what a revelation he's been. This team is probably staying afloat because of him. He's going to have an innings limit, and I believe they're bullpenning tomorrow. So it does seem like the Yankees need to make a move for a starting pitcher. Now, do you think they need to make a big move first? And here's the other guy, Jay Happ, who apparently is decent versus the rest of the Major League Baseball, but you can't get anybody on the Orioles now, which is mind-blowing. Do the Yankees need to make a big move? And when we say big move, is that Max Scherzer? Because now this is the big thing. Now with the Nationals being bad, they might try to break it down. So let's break it down like this. Would you prefer to go after Max Scherzer and everything that entails, including that contract, or are you trying to go after more of a rental type like Madison Bumgarner? What do you think would better suit the Yankees?
It's such a tough question to answer, because if you're asking me to go out and get Max Scherzer, how does he adjust? We know he's got the stuff to play in the AL East because he's a strikeout machine, right? Everybody knows that. And then you're looking forward too. I mean, who are the free agent pitchers that are going to be coming out? A lot of these teams hold on to these guys now for cost reasons, right? So not a lot of these guys are going to hit the open market, and then you see the extensions that they're getting. I mean, is Zach Wheeler going to get Patrick Corbin money? I mean, he's not a lefty, but he probably will, which is crazy to think about. But I do think and again, going back to this offseason, I don't think they did enough to fix this rotation up, right? And I said it with the Jay Happ signing. I was never a big believer in the Happ signing when it happened, because they brought him in to be the Red Sox killer, and then he got stomped twice by the Red Sox last year as a Yankee. So I never really saw the logic in bringing him back. But you look at who the potential available guys out there are going to be. Madison Bumgarner, at worst, he's going to be a number 3 starter for you, but he's proven in the playoffs, and you think maybe sending him to a contending team will reinvigorate him. He seems like the kind of guy that needs that competition in his blood pumping through his veins. So it really depends philosophically what you believe in. If you want to bring in that guy that's going to be there for the next 5 years, who's going to be a rock in the rotation, which the Yankees kind of need, or if you think that a hired gun like Bumgarner this year, being that extra lefty in the rotation that's going to throw some people off, being the innings eater, and being that proven postseason guy, if he's the guy. I mean, if it were up to me, it'd probably be Bumgarner. I know the Yankees are on his no trade list, so it might take some convincing there, and you probably wouldn't have to give up a whole lot to get him in terms of prospects. So,
would you trade Clint Frazier for Madison Bumgarner?
Who's playing left field for the Yankees next year?
I'm sorry?
I mean, that's the question is, who's playing left field for the Yankees next year then? Do you believe if you trade Frazier now, do you believe that, under some miracle, Jacoby Ellsbury is going to come back and be that guy?
Jacoby Ellsbury will never put on the Yankee uniform unless he's going trick-or-treating with his children, okay?
And I got
that's why there's so much to unpack in this, right? I mean, and this is an entirely separate debate, guys, with Clint Frazier, but who's playing left field for the Yankees? Do you think Stan and his injury history? This is how you end up with the 6 outfielders line from Brian Cashman, and in reality, you only have 2.5, right? So, it's a good question. I don't know if I would trade Frazier for Bumgarner, especially with the way Frazier's hit this year for them.
I'm a Clint Frazier fan. I wouldn't personally do that.
So am I.
I think you can get that trade done with some lower level prospects, and even a guy like Thairo Estrada.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think an Estrada and Florial package would probably get it done.
Yeah, but Cashman's not going to touch him. I don't think Cashman's going to let him go.
I think the reason that he's been here is the fact that he's in low A ball. I don't know if he's made it to double A yet, but he was in low A ball for a long time, and he's a player that a lot of teams covet.
He's been hurt the last 2 seasons too.
He has dealt with the injury.
So I think that if you're asking me, Clint Frazier, listen, full disclosure, I like Clint as a guy. I think he's a great guy. I talk to him in the Yankee clubhouse probably more than I talk to anybody else. I mean, we talk about sneakers, we talk about light. I mean, he's a great guy. He's a great player. As you're seeing that this year, when he has the time to play, when he gets playing time and he gets in a rhythm, he's a great player. He's got power.
Joe, why don't you talk to him about coming on the NYYST podcast? Wow, I think that's a good conversation
right there.
I could, next time I see him, probably either next week or the week after, I'll certainly bring it up and see what he says. I know that he's a pretty open guy. He would be, I think he has some hurdles to jump there, but we'll see. I'm friendly with him. So
here's a little tidbit that not many people know about Madison Bumgarner's no trade clause. Do we know why he has a no trade clause on so many teams? Because he literally has it in his contract that he gets a bonus if he waives a no trade clause.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
And the thing, and when you look at the 8 teams that are on his list, I know that it's the Astros, the Cardinals, the Cubs, the Yankees. It's all 8 teams are teams that are going to be in the playoff hunt in some way this year.
And he's going to want to control if he's getting some type of an extension, maybe along with it. So I think the whole no trade clause when it comes to Bumgarner, especially going to a team like the Yankees, is not going to be the issue. I think it's all there for strategic purposes and nothing like, he has any resentments towards any of these
He's not
teams.
getting traded to the Toronto Blue Jays. So we can all
no.
say that.
No. And then they respect him enough, and I think Zaidi and the rest of the Giants front office respect him enough that they're going to respect his wishes and wherever he wants to go. So he's meant so much to that organization, so much, being part of those World Series winning teams. They're going to let him pick wherever he wants to go. So I don't think it's really a matter of of the trade there. And the funny thing is, if you did want to extend Bumgarner, he's only 29. He might be 30 now, but I know that if 29, 30-year-old guys aren't getting contracts, you look at the Keuchels and the Gio Gonzalez's of the world, but a top flight pitcher like Madison Bumgarner, I don't think he'll have any problem either getting an extension from wherever he goes or finding work next year. It won't be an issue for him.
All right, Joe. I know maybe this is not your thing, but, knock on wood, fingers crossed, say a little prayer. Didi Gregorius could be back in maybe 3 or 4 weeks. He's
crazy.
He started extended spring training games this week. We know he was a little under the weather and he missed a game, but not really a big deal. Doing all the little superstitious stuff because this is still the Yankees. God only knows he could
couple setbacks.
He could have a hangnail and might knock him out for 6 weeks. It's just that type of season that it's been. Not saying that Didi's a soft guy that where a hangnail will keep him out for 6 weeks. It's just that's the way these injuries have mounted for the Yankees. But we can start maybe looking ahead that Didi could be coming back in relatively short order here. What is this Yankee infield going to look like? This is a big assumption, but that everybody stays healthy. You got Voit at first right now. Glaber's playing short. DJ at second. Urshela at third. Who's going to feel the crunch of Didi Gregorius coming back?
That's another good question, man. And I know that they don't want to mess.
Well, my question
right
every question I asked you is a good question, but that
They're
one
decent questions.
That one silly question that I slipped in there.
You better write him an apology.
He's never gonna.
He's never gonna let it go. Christian never lets anything go. I can promise you that.
Silly.
I hold grudges worse than that 2004 movie did.
He's got a tendency of he's got a pretty good 9 out of every 10 are pretty good. 9 out of 10 dentists recommend his questions.
I'm okay with that ratio. I'm absolutely okay with that.
But, I think you're looking left to right. It's probably going to be LeMahieu, Didi, Torres, Voit, and it's going to suck for Urshela. But, I just think that they value Didi's bat a little bit too much to not have him in there, obviously, which is why they're taking a little bit of time with him coming back, and I'm sure that they'll push him back a little bit more as long as Urshela keeps hitting. But I think LeMahieu just makes too much sense at third. He's too much of a contact guy. They brought him on for that very reason. He's way too athletic. He's too good of a defender.
He's a wizard in the infield. He's so. Yeah,
Gio's that good too. Though.
You don't really watch. Who watches a lot of Colorado Rockies baseball? But that guy, his reputation has followed him to New York. That he's a stellar defensive player.
And I'll tell you this, guys. The interesting thing is that the advanced analytics, and I know that this makes a lot of people groan, but the advanced analytics don't agree with Gio Urshela's defense as much as a lot of people see with the eye test. So I understand that he's flashy. He's very good with the glove. He's got a decent arm at third, but DJ LeMahieu is a Gold Glove winner. He's a defensive run save wizard, like you mentioned. So I do think that Urshela is going to be the guy that feels the crunch there. I just don't see how you bench anybody else. You're probably not going to bench. You're not going to bench Torres, obviously, with how good he's been. Voit, maybe if he goes into a slump, you can put LeMahieu there and leave Urshela at third. But I just don't see that happening with the way Voit's come back alive in recent days. So yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, those are the kinds of problems you want to have if you're Brian Cashman, but I do think LeMahieu, Gregorius, Torres, Voit, left to right is probably going to be the way it works.
This has been the biggest topic, I'd say, on sports radio today, and the popular answer is your answer that Gio Urshela feels it a little bit. We've said here that it might be LeMahieu, just because that was his initial role with this team was 4 days a week or so. But the more I thought about it, I thought of this. I think everyone's right when they say Gio will take a little bit of a hit, mainly because DJ is batting like 4,000 with runners in scoring position.
I think it's more like 480.
And that's something that the Yankees have been so desperate for, a guy who just comes up in runners in scoring position and can come through. And I think that's important. But the more I thought about it, there's no reason why, with how baseball is nowadays, with all the days of rest and this and that anyone is really going to feel that much of an impact. When you have a guy like DJ LeMahieu who can play all these positions, you're not going to have a guy really feel it, because if DJ's going to play third and Gio's going to get a day off, that's fine. But then the next day, they're probably going to give Torres a day off, and they're not going to want to overplay Didi. So you're going to have a lot of people mixing and matching, and you're not going to see that much of a difference. I really don't think you will, even when Didi comes back.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. That's totally fair too. I think a lot of this depends on what Urshela is.
Right. Is he going to stay where he is, or is he going to go back down to earth?
If he turns back into the pumpkin that Gio Urshela has been his entire career before coming up with the Yankees and doing things that nobody expected him to do, then I think that question is a lot easier, and I think that's why they're lucky to have some time to kind of think about that before Gregorius gets back. But yeah, I mean, with LeMahieu, I think that if you can find him a spot and you stick him in a spot and you can leave him there, as long as he's that proven contact guy and that really great defender, I mean, that's so much value. That it really is. Even if he was brought in here to kind of be that super utility guy, I just think that having that bat in one spot on the infield, guys moving around, that does mess with some guys. It does mess with guys. So I think if you can stick LeMahieu in one spot and just leave him there, I think that's the best course of action if I'm Brian Cashman.
All right, Joe, a couple more. This last one for me, not the best player for the Yankees, but who's been the biggest surprise for the Yankees thus far?
I'm going to say Gary Sanchez, because a lot of these idiots were saying they should trade him last year. So,
not this idiot, okay?
No, we've never.
I've never hopped off the Gary Sanchez train, and every time he has a big game, I like to rub it in their faces. Okay?
Oh, every game he'll
absolutely.
tweet it. He'll tweet actually the same thing every game, pretty much.
Yeah. Yep. So I mean,
keep cracking those home runs, Gary. Boom.
This is what Sanchez is, right? This is what everybody thought he would be. It's what he was 2 years ago. It was what he was when he came up. So, everybody's saying trade him, like, get a life, like, really. Anyway, the biggest surprise, man, that's another tough question, because I think that most guys have performed about what you'd expect them to. I think Urshela, obviously, he's been the story all year. When you look at his offensive numbers before in his career, he just hasn't been good. I mean, he hasn't even existed, Joe. No,
offensively,
he wasn't really
has not existed.
He wasn't. No, I mean, and with Cleveland, he had a nice little stretch of I don't even remember how many games, but I want to say he came up at the same time Lindor came up, and they were both making noise. But yeah, Urshela turned out to be nothing special, and then he goes to Toronto, and he was nothing there, and then he comes to the Yankees, and all of a sudden he figures it out. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy talk. That just doesn't happen with journeyman infielders ever. Like it just doesn't. So, I think Urshela's probably been the biggest surprise for me. I think LeMahieu was another guy. When you looked at his career stats and his home and away splits, kind of didn't agree with the hitter that he was, or a lot of people expected them to be. I do think that that's been a little bit of a surprise too. But yeah, I think that those two are probably the biggest. And Domingo Germán, obviously. I mean, who would have thought? This is a guy that not a lot of people expected to get much from. It's especially this year, but he's been Luis Severino of the rotation. He really has been. He's been exactly what they needed. So those are probably the three guys that come immediately to mind that I think that probably have been the biggest surprises this season.
You can't forget Tommy Kahnle, because he stepped up huge with Chad Green being non-existent for most of the year. I was going to call him a name, but I'm going to try to be nice here. And with Dellin Betances' injury.
Is that it? Bad Green? Is that what you were going to say?
Green.
Chad Green?
Chad, listen, and again, I want to, full disclosure, I talked to Chad Green a lot too, and trust
name
me when I
dropping
say
a lot,
nobody
Joe,
knew.
and I kind of like it.
Nobody, this is the NYY Sports Talk podcast, right?
That's
this is
you
want Yankees,
drop.
right? I'm giving you Yankees. So, I talked to Chad Green a lot, and trust me when I say nobody knew he was struggling more than Chad Green. I mean, he felt the pressure. I wrote a quick piece on him maybe a week ago after we went to a Yankee game. He said he was happy to be sent down because he felt like he was letting the team down. He wanted to figure things out away from where he was costing them games. So, yeah, Green's another guy that I know that hasn't been performing as well as he has in recent years, but again, when people tweet at this guy, when they tweet they want him gone, they want him, they want somebody to bully him, shove him in a locker, and take his lunch money. I mean, it's not right, because he wants to win just as bad as everybody else.
Because they can't isolate their feelings, Joe. They can't just say, you know what, he's struggling right now. Maybe he needs to go down and come back up, and he'll be the Chad Green that we love. No, it's got to be, oh, he sucks. Let's get rid of him. We should trade him for a starting pitcher ace, but he sucks. That's the mentality, Joe.
Yep, that's exactly it. That's it.
Somebody that the fans, and we'll close the interview out on this. We started with one New York manager. We'll finish with the other, the one that everybody seems to be in love with now. He was a bumbling idiot last year, even though he won 100 games. But because, he's got this ragtag bunch of nobodies here, even though, you got Gary Sanchez and Gleyber Torres and Aaron Hicks and DJ LeMahieu and still all-star caliber players. But, the connotation, the feeling around the Yankees has changed where, they're winning despite the injuries, where nobody's really calling Aaron Boone out on anything. He seems to be like in this honeymoon period right now with the fan base. What are your thoughts on his job performance so far through 2019?
Well, you guys asked me a similar question, I remember last year. I want to say it was around the All-Star break, and I'm going to turn it around on you again. I mean, you guys mentioned the injuries, right? How many? I mean, name them. Aaron Judge, Sanchez was out for a while.
Joe, hold on. Let me just pull up a list of the active 40-man roster, and I'll just name them off.
Yeah, name them off.
Because every single one of them, it feels like, has spent a little time injured at some point.
Joe, they have the same amount of IL stints as they do losses this year.
It's unreal.
So yeah, I mean, you look at that, the list of guys that are hurt, and then you also have to take into account that what was the biggest criticism of Boone last year was that he was unable to handle the bullpen, right? But when you look at what he's done this year, that's been one of his strong suits. And he's navigated not having a great Chad Green and still using Holder when Holder hasn't been that great either for them. But, I understand he's got a few more weapons to work with.
How Joe Torre had, Joe Torre had Scott Proctor.
Yeah.
Well, Aaron Boone has Jonathan Holder.
And I think that's just Boone as a guy. Like, he wants to show faith in his guys, and he wants to show trust in his guys. That's just who he is as a manager. And I think that does mean a lot to the players. But listen, when you have your team in first place, you go from thinking, listen, we just got to tread water, be 500, be competitive right now while these guys are out. But now he has them in first place, and they beat a tough Rays team to get back into first. And I think that's an A job. It really is. And I said the same thing last year. I think that fans are way too hard on Boone. I really think that when you have that many egos, that many good players in a locker room, in a clubhouse, and you have to find a way to balance them. I know that he does get a hand from the front office and the analytics department. Listen, that's every manager across Major League Baseball now. It's not just Boone. He's not a puppet. He still makes decisions. He still controls the bullpen. So, yeah, I think Boone's done a fantastic job. He's the manager of the year right now. I mean, when you look at it,
you mean a computer just doesn't pull out a relief pitcher like a Coke out of a vending machine and put him on the mound? I thought that's how that worked.
And it's funny, guys, because Joe Girardi got a lot of flack for his binder for how long, right? But you do get a sense that Boone does manage with his gut a little bit more during the game.
He does.
Which is totally fine. And that's, he manages by feel. And I think that he does have a very, very good handle on the game. So it's hard for me to say that that a manager of a team, of a first place team right now with as many injuries as they had to key players too. This is not bench guys getting hurt. This is not your eighth reliever getting hurt. These are, Aaron Judge, like I mentioned, Luis Severino, James Paxton, now CeCe on the IL. I mean, they've navigated all these injuries, and the one constant's been Boone. He's done a fantastic job with these guys. He knows, he lets them know what their roles are. He communicates very well for them. And I think for that reason alone, that's an A, man. It's tough for me to give him anything less than that right now.
Joe, it's tough for me to give you anything less than an A. Another stellar job here.
Stellar.
We want to thank you for spending your Thursday evening with us here talking baseball, going around the league and the National League a little bit, talking some Yankees. You can follow Joe on Twitter at Joe Rivera SN. You can torture him there with bad puns. He loves it. I'm definitely encouraging that from our followers here. Joe, thank you very much. Have a great Memorial Day weekend, and we'll talk soon.
You're the man, Joe. Thanks,
Guys,
pal.
you got it. No, thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it. Talk soon.
All right, we're back here on episode 120 of the NYYST podcast. Again, can't thank Joe Rivera enough for coming on, spending about an hour with us. Hopefully, you guys really enjoyed that interview. I felt there was some really good energy there. Joe's been on a bunch of times, but you just reach a certain level of comfort with a guy, and Joe, I think it really comes out in the interview there.
Joe is big time now, man.
He's on DAZN.
He's on DAZN.
He talks to Chad Green and Clint Frazier. I don't know if you caught that or not.
What do you mean? The name drops?
I don't know if you caught that. He talks to Chad Green and Tino Martinez also.
Yeah. Listen, Joe. I want Clint Frazier on this podcast so bad. And you know what? Let's just say as a late 100 episode gift, you get us Clint Frazier on the show. I would absolutely. I'll tell you what. I'll send you $100. $100 per player you get on the show. How's that? Pretty good.
Little
steep
stipend there. Stipend there.
Yeah, why not? Okay. But Joe also
gotta sell some T-shirts.
Not to make him the enemy here, but he's been close with the Red Sox. He presented Mookie Betts.
Yeah, he did.
Right.
With the Player of the Year award.
He was there. He was getting doused in champagne when they were on their magical run last year in the clubhouse. Joe Rivera is close to a lot of these guys in the clubhouse. So he's a good guy to talk to.
You know who we can't talk to in the clubhouse is Giancarlo Stanton.
Why not?
Because as I mentioned in the interview, it seems like he's caught bronchitis.
Honestly, as sad as it is, it's the first thing that it reminded me of was Ellsbury. It's just like every little move he makes now, he's just injured.
Is it terminal?
We know that bronchitis, depending on the stage that you have. Now, obviously, Ellsbury is stage 4, so he is terminal. But Giancarlo Stanton is. They gotta.
He did play a rehab game.
What's it called? They gotta contain it. They gotta contain it. Because at first it went from his bicep, then it spread to
his shoulder.
Now it's in his calf.
Now it's in his calf. When you don't catch it quick, the bronchitis, it
which
spreads.
Is scary that it's in his calf because that's a whole different limb now we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which calf?
It's all on the left side. Everything's on the left side.
That's promising. It's staying on the left side, so we can.
It has not spread to the other side.
We can isolate the bronchitis.
Oh my.
Yeah. I mean, are we going to see this guy play baseball this year?
Yeah, he'll
play. And you know what? I said to someone I was talking to over the weekend, I said, you're not even going to see Stanton this year. And next thing I know, I look at my phone, you text me that he's starting a rehab on Monday. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm an asshole, right? And then that happens.
Well, definitely
so I guess I'm not.
Playing for that bobblehead day now, right?
Yeah, no, he's not.
Damn.
You're not seeing any progress. That's the
there was progress.
No, there was, but then it just gets shot down.
Setbacks.
And apparently,
I'd rather not see any progress.
Here's what I don't understand: how do you get calf tightness from getting hit in the leg during batting practice?
Yeah. Training staff, fire them.
Who's throwing BP?
No, I'm just kidding. I'm not irrational like that. But seriously, something's got to give, man. You can't have guys getting hit in the calf and then he's done. That's ridiculous. The back of your head is ridiculous.
Hopefully, Didi Gregorius makes it through these extended spring games okay. Actually, he already did kind of have minor. He was a little under the weather. He needed an IV. He had to sit out a day, but back at it. Hopefully the Yankees see what they see and everything's okay with him in an extended spring, and then he can move on to a rehab assignment. But as we said in the interview, man, I mean, we could be looking realistically where Didi's back in about 3 weeks or so.
That's still mind-blowing to me. Awesome. I just don't get it. I didn't think that this was possible. Like they said it could be, but I didn't think it really was.
You got to give Didi credit.
And I told you what you already said. Yeah, if anyone was going to do it, it'd be Didi. He's just that hard of a worker. I've really enjoyed Joe Girardi with Mike every week.
I don't usually catch him.
Oh, he's got a spot
every
now?
week. Yeah. He's got a spot. Yeah, he's very, very good. Very good.
just the way the Yankee fans wanted to throw Didi in the garbage last year for Manny Machado, but Didi's showing you how that he's Brian Cashman, he might have given you the late end of it, but we're saying there might be a chance that Didi doesn't come back till August.
Yeah.
Now we're talking like mid-June, maybe.
Yeah, man, crazy.
When you put it, you know what? As much as I love Aaron Judge and I'm a fan of Stanton, and I want both of them to come back, and putting Didi's left-handed swing, that's in the middle of this
very
lineup.
Important. And to do it before the All-Star break, I mean, it's just something you didn't think was going to happen. But you know what? I thought you were going to say this, and now I'm just going to say it. Didi Gregorius is a different level to me. And I'm not saying that guys like Stanton and Judge don't care as much as Didi does, but there's something to be said about a guy who went through what he went through and worked his ass off this hard to come back when he's going to.
You don't think Aaron Judge is working hard to come back?
No, that's not what I said.
You don't think Giancarlo Stanton wants to come back?
It takes a special
person to make a statement like that.
No, because can you not picture this? Can you not picture Didi Gregorius doing everything it takes actively to come back, and Stanton,
I can,
and Stanton kind of sitting back in the clubhouse and icing and heating his arm and lifting weights and whatever, but not actively just wanting to get back as soon as possible.
You don't think it's killing Stanton that he can't play baseball right now?
I didn't say that.
So what do you? But you,
I just feel like
you didn't
Didi,
say those words.
Yes, you didn't say those exact words.
I feel like Didi goes
but you
above
just threw
and
Giancarlo
beyond.
Stanton under the bus a little bit, bro.
I feel like
Didi wants to come back because he's working hard.
I feel like
doesn't even
Stanton.
care.
I feel like
Just kidding.
Stanton does everything he can in his mind, and Didi just kind of takes the next step.
Well, he hasn't hit a setback yet. These guys are all hitting setbacks.
But why?
Because they're older, maybe. I don't know.
How is Stanton not back?
Maybe Gregorius his injury isn't as.
I know we don't want to curse really
bad.
anymore, but that was
we're
the
doing a good
closest I
job with
came.
that.
But it's your bicep. You're not back yet?
He's back from that. If it was just a bicep, he would have been playing a month ago.
Right. But what happened? Then he wasn't doing the proper work on his. I bet you Didi, even though he's just working out the one elbow and getting his arm ready, he's still working out his whole body to make sure everything falls into place.
Yes, this is all Giancarlo Stanton's fault. He's not working hard enough to come
All I'm
back.
saying is a guy who just had Tommy John is coming back quicker than a guy who had a little strain in his muscle.
It's less a knock on players like Stanton and Judge and more of
just a praise on Didi.
So now Aaron
But
Judge,
you took it there.
Aaron Judge is out there. He's playing.
No, I didn't. He's the one who's like, so then Giancarlo Stanton. If you go back and listen to the audio, what I said was
Aaron Judge is playing Candyland instead of trying to get back right now. Right? Is that what's happening?
It says something about a guy. It says something about a guy like Didi to come back that
You
quick.
can make a point.
And then he said, and then he said, "Oh, what do you think? Stanton doesn't want to come back. What do you think he could throw it out the window?"
Because you can say something without exactly saying it, and that's what you said.
That's not what I was saying.
It's called
though.
insinuation.
He doesn't know that word.
Right.
Yes.
I know what insinuation means.
Okay, my wife wrote down on the index card yesterday.
I said every week my kids, she's coming up here on camera and flipping the fuck curse. Flipping the fuck out. Okay.
You
Sorry.
broke the streak.
That was a natural curse, though. I mean, I had to say it.
It's at the end of an hour and a half.
It's like a
no one's
PG
listening.
No one's
13
listening
movie.
anymore.
You get 2 F-bombs and a PG-13.
Yeah. Okay. We're good.
I'm good, man. I'm great. I feel so good.
Your kids don't even have school tomorrow.
Yes, they do. What's tomorrow?
First of all, Jack is 2.
Yeah. Can we give Booney some credit? Did you see that 9th inning?
And
today?
Booney's the man.
Did you see that though?
They give kids 4 days off for Memorial Day now.
Do my kids have off tomorrow?
You don't even know. Okay,
my daughter was doing homework before.
Tie game in the 9th, 2 outs, 5-5 game. Nobody on base. He decides to pinch hit Gleyber Torres. Torres then walks. After that, Sanchez pinch hit.
Yes.
Base hit. Then LeMahieu walks, and then Aaron Hicks walks.
Well, I would
Do
really
they win the game today without great manager?
No, I would really hope with Sanchez and Torres on the bench in a tie game day.
Right, no.
And you would put them in.
But maybe you'd want to give them a day off since they are playing
But the
tomorrow.
analytics. And that's how you do it. said that Gleyber Torres needed a day off today, even though he's hitting 19 home runs off of.
With 2 outs in the 9th inning, you might just
guys. Don't worry, it's only 10 o'clock. I'll be editing till 4. Till 4.
You want to have a good show or a great show?
I want a great show always.
Now, look ahead. The Yankees are heading to the Kansas City. What is it, Kauffman?
It's actually Kauffman.
They should trade for Tauchman so he could be playing
Kauffman. Maybe they can have a couple games at Fenway Park.
Maybe.
And grab a cup of coffee.
The Yankees will be in Kansas City for Memorial Day weekend.
I got a number.
8:15, 2:15, and 2:15. Love those start times.
How many runs?
Them apples. Wait, say those again, because I'm about to flip.
8:15, 2:15.
Wait, say them again with the dates.
They're playing tomorrow at 8:15.
Awesome, love it.
Saturday at 2:15.
Love it.
Sunday at 2:15.
Love it. I'm so happy.
Oh, those meet your your standards. Okay.
They do.
Okay.
But what are we gonna do Sunday? That really kind of puts a wrench in our schedule.
All right. So, and this is what we'll wrap up the show on here. The schedule will be a little bit different for this show.
Watch us watching you watch the game.
You're gonna watch us watching the game, and we're gonna turn the camera around, and we're gonna watch you. All right.
Because it is Memorial Day weekend, we're having a we have a little barbecue planned on Sunday evening. So are you done?
Done.
You want to wrap up the show? I'm trying to get there.
I'm delirious now.
Senator Clay Davis.
So instead, we won't be able to record a show after the series is over. And with Memorial Day being Monday, it'd probably not be a great day for ratings anyway. What we're going to do is a little something different.
Yeah, we hurt on holidays. It hurts.
Everybody does.
People are doing other things. The barbecue and eating hot dogs and hamburgers.
We're doing the barbecue Sunday night, so we're not going to record Sunday night.
Selfish. Didn't think of the show.
First of all, I have no control over those things. Okay.
I know you don't. None of us do.
I'm going to the Yankee game Monday, so it's not even like we can do an early show.
You have
Monday.
season tickets?
Yeah, seriously. I mean, you're at every game.
You don't like going, so shut up.
I'm done.
You two shouldn't go anymore together.
Never, ever.
There's something bad juju.
I honestly, I love going with Christian. It's something I do enjoy.
We have a good,
which is why I was so upset.
Miserable. Yeah. I love going to games with you, but I'm going to be a miserable prick the whole entire time.
Here's another 5 minutes now.
No, I'm done.
I know. I got to say this now because I was first miserable because I know that you hate getting to the game late. No, so that was the first thing. So in my head, I was like, great.
If you took the wrong, if you take the right exit.
I took the wrong exit.
Banging
so it was
on this table all episode.
I love banging on this table because it's so firm.
I don't.
You like the firmness.
So now I messed up. Strike one, right?
Yeah.
Then we get there. We get to the game, and there's just so many people there. Apparently, that
didn't care because I cut
you
ruined
this last episode.
All right, it's over.
You already vented this.
You're right.
Okay.
I'm never going.
Enough.
I'm never going again.
Drop it.
But I was miserable for you. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, you weren't. You were miserable for yourself.
Yeah,
we'll just leave it at that.
All right.
Bib yourself.
Fucking jerk off.
There's number 2.
All right. So here we go. Let's tell the fans what we're doing here. You're gonna watch us watch the game.
I'm so happy.
Watch the game.
I'm so happy.
We're gonna record the show live while we watch the first few innings of Sunday's game against the Royals.
I'm very excited.
Who right now the pitching matchup is Joe Lopez, who has a 6.
And you know what? Get your questions ready for us. Just fire them out. We're going to do this live.
How many runs does Ian Kennedy give up this
Jorge
series?
Lopez is going for the Royals on Sunday with his 6.04 ERA versus our ace, Domingo Germán.
Ace.
Is that on Sunday?
Listen, if you're still listening to this and not watching this, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's where we're going live when we watch the game. And we're going to have a nice little promo for this over the next couple days.
Here's the pitching matchups. Yankees are bullpenning on Friday. Chad Green starting versus Jacob Junis. Maybe he'll want to kill somebody this time.
Yeah, really, guys.
I mean, we shouldn't say that, but
yeah, it's your second time this episode alone.
All right.
And then Hap, who it's not the Orioles, so he might be decent this time against Danny Duffy. So those are the pitching matchups.
Duffy kills us, doesn't he?
I like Duffy.
Hate that
Duffy the Vampire Slayer. Is that it? No, Buffy.
All right, so when we start bringing up Buffy the Vampire Slayer, it's time to end the show. It just is.
It was time to end the show a long time ago.
Slayers.
All right.
All right, so that's what we're doing.
You're gonna watch us.
Chris and Ryan are gonna make a little teaser video and put it up on Twitter and YouTube.
It's gonna be like a compilation.
Ryan, we know Ryan loves the comps. Okay, so
3 episodes in a row you bring up.
To promote the you watching us watch the game. Okay,
Watch us watch the game.
so that'll be it. And Yanks will be in Kansas City, and then they'll be home to take on Manny Machado and the San Diego Padres.
Let's do it.
All right. So thank you to Joe Rivera for coming on. Joe Rivera is on Twitter at Joe Rivera SN. Follow our sponsors, Baseballism at Baseballism. The new code Chase28 for free shipping. I like that better than 15%
I knew
off.
you would, pal.
I like that.
I knew you would, pal.
Follow us on Twitter at NYY Sports Talk. Follows. I'm going to give Stat Guy Ryan a plug because he's still depressed over Game of Thrones.
Super down.
The Dothrakis won, right?
No.
Okay.
No,
one-
maybe.
I
Spoiler
might watch
alert.
it one day. Just kidding.
Don't watch it.
Worst show
Never.
ever.
Follow us Ryan at Stat Guy Ryan _NYYST. Okay. Tweet him nice things because he's still upset. All right. So thank you for listening. Stat Guy Ryan.
Go Yankees.
Chris. Say goodbye.